Welcome to the show, 5-Star Fam. I'm AJ, and this is Marc.
Before we get into it, become a member of the Notification Squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube.
This segment is sponsored by Thinking Man Tavern, a cozy Decatur neighborhood pub. Grab a tasty beverage from a wide variety of selections and a plate of something delicious from the menu. To go, check out Thinking Man Tavern.
Welcome to another 5-Stripe Weekly episode, and it is an eventful week. Preseason has started, and we will get into a lot of transfer rumors and a very, very spicy postmortem exit article by Chris Smith talking with Anton Walkes, now, of course, with Charlotte FC. But before we get into all that, the preseason schedule has been announced, and there's a lot of close games, but there's a couple of games that fans are able to go to, so we can rejoice there. But to go over that, January 25th will be the first preseason match against the Georgia Storm. That will be at the training grounds. And then January 30th will be against the Georgia Revolution, a local kind of smaller club at UGA, the college champs, college national champs now, and that will be probably crazy. If you've ever been to a UGA game, I imagine I'm not sure it's gonna be like packed like a UGA game, but it will be still very, very awesome. And then it will be Dalaya or Celaya FC. That will be in Guadalajara, Mexico. That will be February 6th. And then February 13th will be against Chivas. That also will be in Guadalajara. Unfortunately, that's also closed. That would have been a really, really fun away day. But alas, that won't happen. But and that last preseason match will be against, again, Birmingham Legion FC. And that will be February 20th in Birmingham. Or Birmingham, rather. Not the UK version. But I know, right? That would be fun. Birmingham City. Yeah, that'd be insane friendly to play. Just incredibly random if that were. But which one of these piques your interest the most? And of course, we will have the first match of the season on February 27th against SKC. But which one piques your interest the most?
I think from a competition and test standpoint, I think Chivas probably intrigues me the most. It's towards the end of the preseason, and generally, the typical, conventional thought is that your last couple preseason games, you're really trying to ramp up, and so I think that it'll be a good test. I think we'll see where the team's at heading into the season. In terms of being able to attend, because I think that's the real fun of a preseason game. It's just the hangout, right? Because the soccer is not going to be pretty. Players are going to be rusty, and so it's just seeing soccer again, live soccer again, and being with folks. And so I think the Athens atmosphere, like you said, it may not pack out. What is the name of that stadium again?
It's Sanford Stadium, I believe.
Sanford, right, yeah. Sanford's huge. I think it's like over 100,000 at this point, or close to it. So you're not going to pack that out. But I think that there will be like a sort of, I would expect there to be a decent atmosphere, because I think that, it's at the end of the day, it is a college town. And I think that a lot of people in that age group actually do follow Atlanta United, and do like soccer in general. And so I think that for a lot of them, it probably would be one of their first opportunities to see the team in person. And so I think that I think that is strategically, I think it's well played from the club, from a marketing standpoint, from a PR standpoint. You go to a different part of the state. Playing in front of fans that may not have the opportunity to see the team live otherwise. So, And then at Birmingham, like you said, I think that if I remember correctly, 2 or 3 years ago, they went to Birmingham, and there was an atmosphere. You know what I mean? It was pretty rowdy. The game itself was competitive. And that's the last preseason match. And so again, I think there will be that just a little bit of edge to it, where both teams are gearing up for their seasons and actually want to put down a good performance in front of their fans. And who knows? I mean, you might see us at one of those two. So
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, well said on all that. I mean, I don't think I could say it any better. And so, yeah, basically, that UGA one, I think, is the one that I'm looking at against the Georgia Revolution. That will be quite a bit of fun. And that's like pretty much this coming Sunday. So it will be very, very soon, obviously. And we'll have as much coverage as we can, as usual. But moving on from that, the transfer rumors of this week, and so the big one is Ezequiel Barco linked with a move, a season-long loan to River Plate, of course, the world-famous River Plate, and Marcelo Gallardo, he reportedly called Barco, and Barco is keen on the move. So, I mean, is this a move that essentially, there is the option to buy at the end of this as well. Now, River Plate, is this like PR-wise, marketing-wise, a good look for Barco and Atlanta United? Coming from Independiente to Atlanta United, no move to actually Europe. Interest from a lot of Brazilian teams, but Barco seems to be on the move to probably one of two of the biggest Argentine teams in that country. So, good move.
Ooh, I think it's a move that if it happens, it probably has to, I guess. I don't know, there's a lot of moving parts to this, because part of it, of course, is it's kind of linked to Almada coming in, and we'll get to that in a second. But I mean, look, when he first came here, when we first invested in him, the idea was that he would go to Europe, for top dollar. I think that there was probably a Darren Hughes quote about a number that he wouldn't accept less than or whatever at one point. And so from that perspective, that just didn't happen. Barco did not, I think we have to be fair to say Barco did not develop the way we thought he would when he came in initially. I wonder too, from an Argentina perspective, would they even be happy to see him back in the league? You know what I mean? Because he was one of the bigger prospects. He was supposed to show his stuff in Europe and continue to develop his game. And it kind of feels like if he were to leave right now, I feel like the feeling is that his game has stagnated, right? And so he's essentially going back to Argentina. Maybe Europe is still in his future if he rediscovers some different form when he's in Argentina. But I think I think you said this before, this is like more of a sideways move than anything else. So it's just it's I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's all that to like you said, it to me, probably is a sideways move, a lateral move, because obviously the size of River Plate's, well, it's still that while LGP is joining them, there is like a level of where, is this actually a jump into, a more competitive league? It's arguable, but it's also, I think tied with Julian Alvarez moving possibly to Man City for River Plates in that degree, in that, they're looking for a playmaker. They're looking for somebody that, in the sense, if he performs well, there are definitely European eyes on this team as well. So, really not maybe the worst to that degree. But will it get us top dollar? Probably not. Will it even get us double digits? Debatable. And so, and if they did, it would be a coup of a lot of sorts, because it's like, how did you manage that?
Exactly. At this point, exactly. And that's the thing too. That's what makes this odd for me. Like, I don't really know how to analyze this. Like, one, the contract situation, because I thought that this was his final year, and so how is a loan with an option to buy at the end of it going to make any kind of sense. And then, he has a role in the team now. Like I think that there were parts of Barco's play last season that were encouraging.
Yeah.
And I think that having him on the field with Marcelo and Joseph and Araujo actually was effective.
Or Marcelo, yeah.
Yeah. Did I say Marino?
You said, I think Marcelo, but either way, yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes, yeah. But yes, exactly. And so, yeah, you know what I mean? And so to disrupt that, so essentially, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about Amado, but if it is that you're bringing in a new player to replace Barco in much of the same way that Barco first came in, like,
yeah, it's unsettling the team a little bit for sure, and definitely, yeah, there's bits of it where, we'll get to it in a second, but with Barco, there definitely is a little bit of COVID-related kind of depression of the market a little bit, and so could he have gone earlier if the market was a little bit what it was before, where it was wild, transfer fees were insane, and yeah, that definitely could have been the case if it had been a regular transfer market, but it's not, and teams aren't going to take a flyer on a player that they have arguable questions about his physicality, about his ability to maybe take the punishments, because if he does move to Europe, it will be greater punishment to a degree. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, like we're seeing European teams make a move for young MLS players, young domestic MLS players, right? And then you just referenced Julian Alvarez, who's now being linked with City. He was linked with Man U before, and so European teams are making those moves, right? And so you have to think that they do have eyeballs in all of these places, and so you're not really going to hide Barco's play. You know what I mean? Like they've seen him, they've probably seen him, and the fact that there's a lack of interest, I think, is telling.
Yeah. So, and getting to Thiago Almeida. So, there is some questions in the media about him, and Darren Eales in the media did mention that the club has an option for Thiago Almeida, and Eales said that any player Atlanta United signs undergoes an NFL-level due diligence process. Whatever that means, but obviously there's the sexual abuse case against Almeida, and so obvious question marks and red flags before he's even incoming, and then plus the unsettling of a team where basically we were relying on Barco for large parts last season, and there's also that aspect of settling in, and then Almeida wants to pretty much do probably 1 year and go to Europe. So for a stopgap, is it even worth the efforts? I mean, yeah, especially you're taking a loss on Barco more than likely, and then spending about as much or whereabouts for Almeida. Obviously, money isn't an issue for Blank, but what are your thoughts on this?
So, and I'll just touch on the unsettling part of Barco real quick. Like, if it's a case of he wants to leave, right, whether it's to Argentina or to Europe, like, that's one thing. But my thing is, at this point, like, it probably makes more sense to try to just make it work with Barco a couple more years and then see if there's interest, or just make him part of the team long term. I mean, like, Diego Valeri was a part of Portland for a long term, and that turned out pretty well, right? And so not every player that comes from other leagues you have to, like, then flip necessarily.
Yeah.
Joseph is a prime example of that. And so now, in terms of the Almeida thing, and Darren Eales giving this quote, I guess it's good that the media, specifically the ones with press passes, are actually asking these questions and generating this conversation. I think that's an important step. But I hope that he was challenged on that quote a bit. I mean, like, I don't know who that's supposed to inspire confidence for, NFL level due diligence process. Like, unfortunately, NFL players, like, in recent years, and I guess maybe they now have a due diligence process that's strict because of the amount of sexual abuse and domestic violence cases that have been linked with NFL players. And I personally think I theorize that it has something to do with the head injuries and whatnot, but it's not an excuse. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's just, and so no, I don't have any recent memory of the Falcons necessarily having any players on their roster who had like sexual abuse cases or domestic violence cases linked with them. So maybe that's what he's referring to. But in any case, what due diligence is the club doing other than waiting for this case to play out? Like, they're not doing any due diligence. I find it hard to believe that Atlanta United is getting involved with Argentina law.
Yeah, with litigation and like what are they like? Are they asking the government like?
What do they have, sources or plans? Like I probably not, right? So they're just sitting there crossing their fingers, waiting for this case to play out. And a big part of this case that we're still waiting an update on is the DNA test. That was supposed to come last week. I don't think we've gotten any updates on that. I see that our friend of the channel, Gustavo, posted a sort of a thread update yesterday, but like to say that there hasn't really been an update. So like, is it delayed, or has something come to the surface that they haven't released yet? And what does Atlanta United actually know? Like, these are my questions, and it's just so messy, and I just feel like this is avoidable. And
I think that's pretty obvious that with the option, like most of these transfers aren't this way. Usually you put the money up front or like in payments, and you get the player, and it's not an option. Because we don't have the player. So how do we have an option on this player? It's because Velez Sarsfield realizes the sticky situation that this player is in. And that's, in the world scale, I think most of the people know too, because, Transfer Market, they rate him as probably the highest of the players in South America talent-wise. And, I think that's so telling that, it is pretty much waiting on this. So, in answering the questions about a lot of this, Darren Eels talked about Barco and Jurgen Damm. He said that there will be comings and goings and amongst the current roster in the coming weeks. But on Damm, Eels said that, quote, "we'll have a chat and try to find the best opportunity," unquote, for him. So, that pretty much means that they're trying to move him. And they just they haven't found a taker. And basically, the albatross of a contract is basically hamstringing the club to make other moves that pretty much have not been happening this offseason. I mean, we've made a few, a backup goalkeeper properly in that sense, but bringing in Ronald Hernandez permanently, but in terms of actual inspiring moves, this is like we've lost a bunch of useful players, it seems like, and the roster's mostly the same. I mean, agree? Disagree?
Agree. I mean, what I will say is that I think most of the starting 11 is pretty set. So I guess depending on what the system is, and I guess you could say also Aruju came in the middle of the season, and so this will be his first full off season, and I think we'll see improvement there. I do wonder if they're also just banking on improvement internally in general. So somebody like George Campbell, for example, right? And then like one of the things that Darren Eels apparently mentioned is that they're not going to be accepting offers for Robinson at this time, which probably makes sense. He's the core of the back line,
and a big enough offer probably hasn't come in that has really made them be like, ooh, maybe we should. So,
exactly. And even though, as I've said before, I'm pro letting Miles Robinson go if the opportunity is there, I think it has to be smart for everyone involved. And so, don't take the first offer, and like at this point, the season starts in a month, so probably not the best time to let go one of your most important players, arguably your most important player. So
right, for sure. And then also, there was a trip to Argentina for Darren Eales and Carlos Bocanegra, and probably some other staff members too. But the rumor is from Kike Henovar that Eels watched Rosario Central. They're friendly on over the weekend, and it was presumably to scout 20-year-old Mexican forward Luca Martinez de Puy. And I mean, he's a guy that's already a youth international for Mexico. I mean, it seems like a guy that's with 8 goals and in their and I believe it was kind of a decent amount of appearances. Like, wasn't like a pretty good return in that sense, and a guy that's for 20 years old maybe replaces that U22 spot for Eric Lopez. There's other speculation that maybe it's for another player, Pereira, a winger. Could be something that's we could look at as well. Obviously, we do have a couple wingers in this squad. That's I mean, if you count Moreno in that sense, because he might have to move to that side for Almeida if he does come in. Maybe there isn't exactly a spot there, but for a backup striker that's has some good promise to pretty much hold down the fort instead of Jose Martinez if he ever does have to come out of the side. I mean, what do you think about this this apparent rumor?
I think it is interesting, especially when you consider the age aspect, right, and that the fact that he would be a U22 signing. It does seem like they're trying to replace Lopez in that regard, which we'll see. I guess we'll see how that plays out. But I mean, like, other than that, I mean, I guess it's exciting. It's always been exciting being linked to like attacking players and forwards and so forth. I do wonder. I feel like we may need to address the left wing position. I don't know if we have like a true winger in that sense, like somebody who who can take on fullbacks 1-on-1, can kind of shoot with their inside foot and also cross with their outside foot a little bit. And so it's because I think like we have Aruju for the right side, but if we could replicate his play on the other side, I think that would definitely help the rest of the attackers. Because I think like Moreno, Barco right now anyway are more comfortable in the middle. If Almeida comes, he's more comfortable in the middle. So it'll be interesting to see, I think, how the team address that.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you somewhat. I think a lot of our kind of wing play does come from the fullbacks that we have, and so the crosses will come from there. But to be a little bit more unpredictable, I definitely agree. Like, if obviously Mulroney's in the side, but I wouldn't say that he's maybe starter material, but he can put in a cross from that left side. But it's one of those where if we could get somebody that is a little bit a different dynamic than what we have for the wingers, then I think that would be something that would be quite welcome. But moving on from that, the team did announce a new homegrown, and that is Caleb Wiley, the left back, the 17-year-old. He's 5'10", so like a different size to say the player that we currently have there right now in George Bello, but definitely a very talented kid, and an academy player since the inception of Atlanta United. He was with the U12s, and so definitely a player that's we have been grooming for a long time, and so definitely great to see Wiley get that homegrown contract, and hopefully he will play a lot of minutes for the twos, and maybe make his moves into the first team if George Bello does move on. But speaking of George Bello, in the U.S. men's national team, unfortunately, he didn't make the team. But Miles Robinson and Brooks Lennon did, and it is an interesting roster for sure, as there are 4 right backs in this roster, but only 1 left back, and George Bello doesn't make it. It's U.S. men's national team fans probably were up in arms, like, what's the deal? What's with this roster construction? But does it make sense to you? Like, is Bello just maybe given a rest, as he's a known quantity to Greg Berhalter?
Yeah, because I don't think we've seen DeAndre Yedlin in a while, so maybe it's a case of he's wanting to give somebody else a different look. I think Serginho Dest can play on the left. Funny enough, he's been linked with Chelsea, because they're kind of struggling in that position right now, and so maybe that's in the thinking as well. Has Brooks Lennon played on the left in the past? I feel like I remember him doing that.
No.
Okay.
So, it wouldn't be. I don't think he would try that out quite yet during these World Cup qualifiers. But
but no, I mean, I guess maybe he's a little bit unlucky, but I also don't think that Bello is necessarily at the point where he's a lock to make the team. I think he's one of those that he'll get looks, especially when he's in form. So kind of like Brooks Lennon now. Like Brooks Lennon is getting a look. I was a little bit surprised that he made it for World Cup qualifiers, but he must have impressed in his last go round in the January camp. So
yeah. So definitely, it's an interesting roster, and it could be just where they're just kind of trying some things out. But also, Jose Martinez and Ronaldo Hernandez, they joined Venezuela for their World Cup qualifiers as well. So they're not with the team in preseason at the moment. But hopefully that doesn't, sort of that acclimation period being integrated back in, that it won't be too difficult. Also, Machop Chol will also be playing for South Sudan in the upcoming FIFA window. So, that's awesome for the homegrown as well to be able to get called up. And also Johnny Fortune, the Atlanta 2 player. He got called up to Trinidad and Tobago for their international friendly against Bolivia. And so definitely congrats to all of those players on receiving those call-ups. Of course, Johnny Fortune, a little bit near and dear because, of course, Marc is, TNT by blood anyway. I don't know by choice of of the team that you will support. Probably both. A little bit of U.S. men's national team and TNT. I presume, but you tell me.
It's they're just a totally different. Like at this point, TNT is like a 4th division team, unfortunately. So it's like they don't even really mix anymore. I mean, they do play each other, and when they do, I would root for TNT. But that's more of a long shot underdog thing at this point. But it's cool to see Johnny keeps getting called up, and I think it's good experience getting that so many international caps early on. He'll definitely be tested. Unfortunately, in this go round, we lost 5-0 to Bolivia, but unfortunately, that's like to be expected right now. The football's kind of in the mud, but I think it will do well. I think for Johnny to continue getting this playing time, and and then of course continue on with Atlanta United or wherever his career takes him.
All right. And so moving on from that, Atlanta United announced that Eugenio Villazon will join the coaching staff as an assistant coach. Basically, he is a well-respected and very prestigious coach, and he'll bring a lot of experience and, kind of the good human values, quote unquote, says Gonzalo Pineda. And yeah, basically, there's a lot of development that he can bring to the staff that, yeah, maybe will be just from a different standpoint. But he came from Liga MX side Toluca, and yeah, he coached alongside very, very prestigious manager Enrique Mesa. And so definitely welcome to Villazon. He seems like a good hire for that bit, kind of with that experience having known Gonzalo Pineda. And so, yeah, this could be a coup. We'll see how that pans out. But moving on from that, Darren Eales announced that there will be an in-person kit launch event this year. It will be for that kind of rumored mint kit that we will be getting this season. And so, you know, we will see when that actually is, and you know, if it actually is mint. But you know, I think more or less the reports are probably going to be true. So moving on to the last story of this news segment, and it's Chris Smith's 90-min article on Anton Walkes and his exit from Atlanta United. And one of the telling quotes was that he said, "When I found out I'd been left unprotected for the expansion draft, it came as a surprise because we'd been talking long-term about staying in Atlanta." And he also talked about how, yeah, he was, you know, he found that out from pretty much, you know, social media, not from the team, and kind of unsettling to a lot of degrees because he was trying to settle down in Atlanta with his family. And so definitely, yeah, I think that brings some large questions onto this front office. What did you think of this article, Marc?
Like, we were already frustrated with this move as it happened. And it's like, oh, you didn't think you could feel worse about it? Here, hold my beer. Like,
Yeah.
jeez, man. It's just it's so unprofessional. Like, relationships are a big part of what the front office does, right? Like, the precedent that they set internally and with players in general is important. And so, like, that sort of thing, like not being straight up with players, not communicating with players, that's the sort of thing that players talk about, you know? And so, like okay, we saw I forget who did the polls or about MLS teams. So, like, Atlanta United, I think, were the, you know, most desired place to play among players. But it's not going to stay that way if, like, players will keep tell each other, hey, this is how they operate, just so you know. Like, you know, they preach a family atmosphere, but it's not really the case. Like, I mean, that's just inexcusable, man. I mean, like, and I'll be perfectly honest, I don't think Anton Walkes has any reason to be dishonest about this. You know, like, the fact that he left for Europe and came back to Atlanta United, you know, I think it showed from there was a strong connection. And the fact that he went from not being a guaranteed starter to pretty much being undroppable, it just showed, like, I love seeing players, like, work their way into an important role, right? Because they sort of see all levels of it. And I think that in a lot of ways, those guys can be the most effective leaders. And then to get rid of him in this manner, and as we said before, like, why did you leave Anton Walkes unprotected? You could have left Hasetu, you could have left, I'm assuming, Hyman. Like, nobody's gonna pick those players up at those salaries, even if you were afraid of losing them, which I'm not sure why you would be, but that's a whole other matter. But you know, I have my theories on that bit, but yeah, that's in terms of how I felt about it. Like, I was a little sick. I mean, you were there when I read the quote for the first time. Like, I was so just sick, and it's
not surprising. And this is the thing. It's that this has happened. There's a precedent LGP, Darlington Nagby, Julian Gressel to a degree as well. There is pretty much a lot of players that felt spurned, and it could have been where, they could have just been told straight up, you are pretty much excess. Maybe not told that way, but you're not, you're surplus to requirements a little bit. Maybe it's like, hey, we're considering, something like a communication with the player. And then they would be like, okay, well, I accept that. Maybe there's like something that I can improve in my game that can make me maybe more intangible to this side. But, in that degree where, it's not even told because of what? Because of cowardice, probably? Yeah. There is, I think reason for people to be upset. And, Walkes, in that article, did say that he's moved on. But definitely, it's something that's, by in large part, the most frustrating bit is to lose him for $50,000 in GAM. Like, like that's, it's Alec Can. This offseason has not really been, I think, banner in terms of decision making to a lot of degrees. It's pretty much like, we're cleaning up the mess a little bit, and yet Carlos Bocanegra got an extension, right? So
4 years. He'll be here until we're hosting the World Cup. Like, oh god.
So,
I thought about that the other day. I was just like, god damn it! Like,
and so that pretty much if not this pretty much puts him on that hot seat. I mean, pretty much these moves, very much are him. These past at least, 2 transfer windows without McDonough are him. So we will see, and we will be looking to see if this is money well spent on kind of the pitch and in the front office. But anyway, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, just one more. I guess 2 quick points. You have those people that always come out when these stories break. It's like, oh, it's a business. Well, okay, yes. Like, I think players understand it's a business as well, and so I think you could even have that conversation with Walkes. Say, look, we're trying to do something different. You're not really part. I don't think you're part of our plans long term. We're gonna let you go to Charlotte. But at least have that conversation. And like just. A big part of business is word of mouth, and I can't imagine that Atlanta United's reputation will continue to stay at the high, continue to be highly regarded. Mm-hmm. If there's this bad word of mouth going on in the league, which that's just natural. And then the other thing too is a big part of this business, and specifically Bocanegra's job, is getting best value that you can.
Yeah.
And he has not been doing that. And I'm like letting Walkes and Khan go, 2 players that other teams are interested in. Essentially just letting them go makes 0 sense from the perspective of trying to get the most value. I just wonder if Bocanegra just doesn't feel like it's important.
Because he's got the safety net of Arthur Blank's blank check, essentially.
Exactly.
No pun intended. And
that's exactly what I think it is. That's exactly what I think it is. I think the Atlanta United literally spend the most money in the league, and Bocanegra says any problem that needs fixing, we can just solve it with money. And it's
that papers over the cracks.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, and it's this. To your point of it's just business from fans that would push back on that. There's such a thing as good business and bad business, and this is definitely bad business, and it's also bad PR when players will speak to each other, and no doubt they will speak to each other about these ongoings, off the pitch, especially the lack of the human side of it. But that pretty much wraps it up for the news. In and on a spicy note, but why not? It's definitely we're not averse to that in the Atlanta United world, that's for sure. But okay, that pretty much does it for the episode, except for the question of the day. And speaking about Anton Walkes, what do you think of his words on his exit from Atlanta United? Let us know in the comments below. We look forward to what you have to say. So, guys, that is the episode. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. For Mark, I'm AJ. Thank you so much for watching.